How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Infinite Sports. I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, on this Friday, July 11th. To recap on today's episode, the final game between the Yankees and the Mariners. Yankees winning 6-5 in probably the game of the year for them. And let's explain why. So, going into last night, didn't really have high hopes for the Yankees going into this game. When you looked at the pitching matchup of Marcus Stroman versus Bryan Woo, the odds were stacked up against the Yankees. Now, Marcus Stroman has done okay since he's come back in his couple of starts, but I didn't feel good about this. More so because of what the Yankees were stacked up against in a pitcher in Bryan Woo, who will be going to the All-Star game this year, and rightfully deserved, and he showed that, he showcased that last night. And he's pitched well against the Yankees. I just felt like this was probably the game that the Yankees were going to drop. And I thought as the game went along, I kept saying the Yankees' best chance to get to Woo was in the first inning because he walked the first two batters of the game. And then after that, he just sat the Yankees down. 1-2-3 inning after 1-2-3 inning. And it got to that point where it was a no-hitter watch. And I've only seen, since my time watching baseball, I've only seen the Yankees get hit, or no-hit, once. And that was back in 2022, the combined no-hitter against the Astros. I was not looking for this to be the second time last night. But the way the Yankees were looking, there was a possibility that was going to happen. But Bryan Woo's pitch count was getting to a certain point where he wasn't going to finish the game anyways, in my opinion. And it would have had to have been a combined no-hitter. But to the Yankees' credit, they broke up the no-hitter after, it was 2-0. So, the Yankees still weren't out of it. You're still waiting for somebody to get a hit and then get the bats going. But once Jorge Polanco hits that 3-run homer off of Clayton Beeter in the top of the seventh to make it 5-0, I just sat there going, yeah, this game is over. They're not going to come back. 2 runs is possible, but, and the Yankees did show against the Blue Jays last week. They came back after being down 8 runs. But I just didn't feel good about it. Mariners had some good bullpen guys coming out. I just didn't think it was going to happen. But the Yankees got something going in the bottom of the 8th inning. Jazz Chisholm broke up the no-hitter. Ben Rice, he singles right after that to put 2 guys on base. And then Austin Wells ends up hitting a sac fly to drive in Chisholm. Chisholm made it to third on the Ben Rice single. And, it looked like it was going to be a close play because it was shallow. But Jazz ended up scoring to make it 5-1. Then they took out Bryan Woo, put in Matt Brash, who's been very good this season. Volpe ends up coming up and striking out. So then the Yankees sent up Giancarlo Stanton. Now, Giancarlo Stanton, over the course of his career, he is not a great pinch hitter. But in this at-bat, takes a pitch deep to right center field, 98 miles an hour, and now it's 5-3 all of a sudden. And you're thinking, okay, I appreciate the fight that they're showing. So then Yankees put in JT Brubaker in the 9th inning. You saw Beeter last night. You saw Ian Hamilton, Brubaker. Brubaker pitches a clean 9th. Strikes out Julio Rodriguez and Cal Riley. So we go to the bottom of the 9th inning. And now the Mariners put in Andres Munoz, their all-star closer. And I was like, all right, Trent, because Trent Grisham led off. Just get on, give Judge a chance to tie the game. And to give Trent Grisham credit, put together a good at-bat. He singles to right field. Judge comes up. And unfortunately, Judge ends up flying out. So you're like, okay, Let's see what Cody Bellinger can do. Cody Bellinger extends his hitting streak now. I think it's to 15 straight games. And I think it was the longest since Derek Jeter back in 2012. So it's been a long time since the Yankees had a hitting streak like this. And you would have thought Judge would have did this. But, yeah, so Bellinger singles. Then Jazz ends up flying out. Ben Rice puts together a good at-bat. He walks. And now Austin Wells comes up with 2 outs. And he singles to right field to tie the game. Now, a big takeaway from this game is the fact that Munoz was tipping his pitches. Because I didn't notice this until the post game. They pointed it out that, Trent Grisham and Cody Bellinger both at second base are putting their arms up when there's an off-speed pitch coming. And you saw that, over the course of the at-bats after Grisham and Bellinger, and that's, why they were doing that. So, that played a role, but, Yankees also got to, put the ball in play, and the ball's got to find grass. Jazz Chisholm, flew out, and then Wells, he singles to right field to tie the game. So the Yankees still had to, do some damage there, and they did. They take advantage of that, and they did. So then Anthony Volpe comes up, and I'm like, please, Volpe, please. Everybody has been on your case. Flip the script. Change the narrative. Because I know he hasn't been playing well. But we still want this guy to do good. So Volpe comes up, and he hits a ball. He puts some, a good swing on it. And it ends up being the final out of the inning. Flew out to deep center field to Julio Rodriguez. So now the Yankees end up going into extra innings, which they are not very good in. Now, it's amazing. The home record is a mirror to the away record. The Yankees have a very good home record in extra innings since the Manfred Man was introduced, but they have the worst record on the road. So the fact that they were at home, that does benefit them. So Devin Williams comes in, strikes out Randy Arozarena, gets Jorge Polanco to ground out, and then he gets Luke Raley to ground out. And Devin Williams was pumped up. He has been very good. And he's taken back that closer role. And that was a big moment. And he delivered. So now you got Volpe at second base. Now this is where you shake your head as a Yankee fan, as I punch my mic. This is where you think to yourself they're probably going to lose. Because then Oswald Peraza ends up trying to bunt, and it looks like he doesn't really know what he's doing. And he ends up bunting straight to third base for an out to Ben Williamson. So that was the first out of the inning. I mean, can the Yankees lay down a bunt? Can they do that? So they send up Goldschmidt and to replace Dominguez, and they just walk him. They just walk him. So Grisham comes up. He ends up walking. Bases are loaded with Judge coming up. So you figure, hey, you can't pitch around Judge. You got to pitch to him. You figure Judge is going to deliver in that spot. And he hits the ball just deep enough. It looked like it was going to be a little too shallow. But look, you got Volpe at third base who can run. So it ended up being a bang-bang play at home plate. But Volpe, with the great slide, pulls one arm back to avoid the tag of Cal Riley, extends the other arm. He ends up being safe. They end up reviewing it. Call was upheld. We knew that was going to happen. And the Yankees end up winning the game 6-5. And what a win. What a win it was for the Yankees. We talk about what Cody Bellinger did the other day in the final game against the Mets, where he catches the ball and doubles the ball of Soto and doubles up Lindor, and how that could be a play that reignites this Yankee season. But some people were like, hey, let's see what they do here now. Playing against the Mariners, and now they'll be playing against the Cubs tonight. Well, I think this is a game that you could look at and say, this can change the course of a season. Because the Yankees have not been playing good ball, sloppy defense, pitching has been in disarray, and still kind of is in disarray. Got to get some guys back. Got to make moves at the deadline. But when you're down 5 runs until basically the 8th inning. And you pull off this kind of comeback against good pitching. Yankees saw good pitching coming out of the bullpen. And a 5-run deficit. And you won an extra innings. That builds confidence. And this was the first time since 2016. Nope, that's a different stat I wanted to get into though. But yeah, so first win for the Yankees when trailing by 5+ runs in the 8th inning or later since June 29th, 2016 against the Texas Rangers. I believe that was when Didi Gregorius hit a walk-off homer. So it's been a long time since the Yankees did something like that. Because like I said, when Jorge Polanco hits that 3-run homer, you're thinking, yeah, it's just not their night. And also, they are the first team to win a game with 0 hits and a 5-run deficit through 7 innings since the Pirates did it back on June 24th of 1977. It's a long time ago. And the Yankees also, I mean, they continue to score runs. They have now scored, this is courtesy of Max Goodman, have now scored 5+ runs on offense in 9 straight games, matching their longest streak since 2013. They're getting timely hits. Over their last 4 games, Yankees slash line is 394, 425, 727 runners in scoring position. The offense has been clicking. They just got to get the pitching in order. And again, this is coming off of, being no hit for 7 innings. Bryan Woo, after the first 2 batters he walked, he retired the next 20. I mean, he really had his way with the Yankees. Yankees did get to him last year, but for the most part, Woo has pitched very well against the Yankees. But what a comeback, though. I mean, that was just, it was exciting. You figure maybe after a win like that, like we talked about, I mean, this win can go a long way. Does that mean that the summer swoon is over? It's possible. And I think the Yankees are one of those teams that really does need the All-Star break. Get guys right. Maybe you get some guys back soon. We'll see. But what an exciting win. It really was. It was a good baseball game. It could be a Yankee classic. And how about Giancarlo Stanton coming off the bench, the pinch hit home run? That's when you start thinking, all right, maybe they could do it. But Munoz, he's lockdown closer. He's got an ERA around 1 or under 2. Well, it's really under 2. It is, in the ones. But he had 5 blown saves going into that appearance last night. So there was a chance. And the Yankees did it. They came back. And now, you could finish the All-Star, you could finish the first half on a high note, as opposed to the way the last couple weeks were looking, where it looked like you were just going to go into the All-Star break with a thud. But they can go into the All-Star break on a better note. And they will be going up against the Cubs team that is very good. They got stars that don't necessarily get talked about enough, particularly Pete Crow Armstrong. But you look at these numbers of the lineups across baseball. Cubs are first in RBIs. They're third in home runs. There's a lot of teams tied for 4th in batting average. But runs scored, they're top 3 on base percentage. They're 7th, but they're right there at the top. Slugging, they're 2nd behind the Yankees. OPS, they're 3rd behind the Yankees and the Dodgers. They are a very good offensive team. So the Yankees pitching in this series is going to have their hands full. And looking at the pitching matchups tonight, you got Chris Flexen against Carlos Rodon, Matthew Boyd against Max Fried tomorrow, and then on Sunday you got Shota Imanaga against Will Warren. And actually, Max Fried will not be pitching in the All-Star game, so Carlos Rodon has took his place on the roster. So congratulations to Carlos Rodon on making the All-Star team, well deserved. He's been one of the Yankees' best pitchers. Well, he's been the Yankees' best pitcher outside of Fried. I mean, I guess you could have made the argument for Schmidt before he got hurt. But Rodon, has been very good for the Yankees. So, good pitching matchup tonight, going up against Chris Flexen, who's 5-0 with a .83 ERA. But we talked about it a little bit, with the stars that the Cubs have. Kyle Tucker having a great year. Will he be back with the Cubs? That remains to be seen. He's going to get paid a lot this offseason. Also, Pete Crow Armstrong, who doesn't get talked about a lot. Yankees will get a dose of him this weekend. Seiya Suzuki, he's had a good year. 25 homers, 77 RBIs, 874 OPS. This is a good lineup. So, Michael Busch, also having a good season. 296 batting average, 18 homers, 58 RBIs, a 934 OPS. Yankees will also see potentially John Birdie, former Yankee from last year. So, we'll see. Actually, no, they will see him. This is the lineup. I thought I didn't know if the lineup was finalized or not. But yeah, so lineups have been put out. Nico Horner leading off for the Cubs. Kyle Tucker, Seiya Suzuki, Carson Kelly, who's been good for them this year. Pete Crow Armstrong, Dansby Swanson, Justin Turner, Michael Busch, and then John Birdie. And then for the Yankees, we still got the same guy at the leadoff spot. Jason Dominguez leading off. Aaron Judge batting second. Cody Bellinger third. Ben Rice is DHing tonight, so no Stanton in the lineup again because he pinch hit yesterday. Jazz Chisholm will be batting fifth. Paul Goldschmidt sixth. J.C. Escarra behind the plate. No Austin Wells tonight. Anthony Volpe batting eighth, and then Oswald Peraza batting ninth over at the hot corner, third base. So those are the lineups. So we'll see how it goes. Jazz Chisholm actually, it was made official yesterday, so he will be participating in the home run derby. Again, like I said, mixed on it. I mean, I'm going to be rooting for Jazz, of course. But at the same time, I'm okay with, him getting knocked out early. Mainly because, not just because, like the thing about it potentially messing up your swing, but also just the fact that we were hearing he was dealing with, a shoulder issue. That's really where I have my concerns. I know we talked about this yesterday. It had more so to do with his throwing as opposed to his hitting. But still, shoulder injury is a shoulder injury. And the home run derby, it takes a lot. It takes a lot out of you. So, we'll see. But that's on Monday, and then you got the All-Star game as well. So the Yankees, they got Judge, Jazz, Fried will still be going, just not pitching, and Rodon. So, and good on those guys to get there. So, and maybe, on talking about the Mets, maybe Juan Soto finds a way to get there, because I know there's, been a lot with that, with him not making it, and also his comments as well on not making it, saying that there's a lot of money left on the table, which, look, for me, I'll just say this, it's a Juan Soto thing to say, right? He's not wrong, and he speaks, he doesn't, take the, sometimes he doesn't take the politically correct route, where he doesn't actually say how he truly feels. That's what he did. But I initially said, look, he got off to a slow start. That's why. But when you see some of the guys that make it over him, you kind of sit there and go, he couldn't make it over this guy? He couldn't make it over this guy? But maybe he still can. Maybe he still can. So, but even if he definitely isn't in. He's not in right now, but even if he doesn't sub in for somebody, he's going to make the All-Star team plenty of times during this 15-year contract. All right, it's 1 year. Got off to a slow start. But he's turned it around. Now he's having a great year. The numbers have, and now we're looking like Juan Soto numbers. So, look, yeah, I know some people might be a little discouraged by it. Ultimately, if you're a Met fan, you have bigger things that you have your eyes on right now. And how are they going to turn around their season? They're going to be getting reinforcements back with their pitching. Their pitching really needs it. They got swept in the doubleheader against the Orioles yesterday. So, you get the get-right games against the Yankees, and you did well against the Brewers, but now you're kind of back to where you were. Yankees look like they're starting to climb out of it. The Mets, I mean, they showed the same thing, but now they're kind of they fell a little bit. So they're gonna have to get back up, and I think they will. They will because they got to get healthy. That one of the main things for the Mets is they have to get healthy, get your pitching back because right now you don't have a rotation, and you're throwing these bullpen arms out there that, no offense to them, they shouldn't be on major league rosters. They shouldn't. So they'll turn it around. They will turn it around. But we are getting closer to the All-Star break. We have one more series to go. The games between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then they don't play till I think next Thursday, next Friday. But yeah, and the Yankees, they gained a half game back of the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays were off yesterday. They lost to the White Sox the previous day. So the Yankees are trying to get themselves back and reclaim the AL East. And we're in for an interesting trade deadline when we get there. The Yankees are going to be very aggressive. I do agree. I was listening to Mike Francesa, and he was saying, like, don't give up, your top prospects to just get, a Eugenio Suarez, which I do agree with. Like, if the Yankees have to give up a George Lombard Jr. or Spencer Jones to get a Eugenio Suarez, then I'm staying away and trying to find somebody else. He was saying that the Yankees should try to get Ryan McMahon because it would cost less. He's got a good glove, built for Yankee Stadium. I could get behind that, but I think it's very weird now because back, we go back to about 5 years ago. I was saying the Yankees need more left-handed bats because they lacked balance. It was all these right-handed sluggers, Luke Voit. You had Stanton and Judge, but it was right-handed dominant. You really only had Brett Gardner and Aaron Hicks as your only lefties. But now we're at the point where we're teetering the other way, where it's like we might have too many lefties. Because, you look at the Yankees catching situation, you got Austin Wells, J.C. Escarra, and even Ben Rice, all left-handed hitters. Dominguez can switch hit, but you got Bellinger, you got Grisham, they're lefties. Yorbit Vivas is a left-handed hitter. Jazz is a left-handed hitter. The Yankees are fine with Judge, Stanton, you got Goldschmidt, but maybe you need a right-handed bat. That would be my argument. But if you could get Ryan McMahon, who could play good defense, and he could hit it to the short porch out in right field, maybe they unlock something because he's not having a great year right now. Then you know what, I'd be okay with it. But for me, I do want Eugenio Suarez. But if it takes a George Lombard Jr. or Spencer Jones to get him, I'm good. And I think the Yankees will find those bullpen arms. He also said, Mike Francesa also said it's like harder to, get relievers than it is to get a starter. I don't know. I feel different about that too. I feel like it's harder to like get a starter. Like I feel like relievers are always available. But we'll see. Look, my dream scenario is the Yankees, they get Suarez, they get one of the starters from the Diamondbacks, and then they get a couple of relievers. Hopefully we get something that I shouldn't say hopefully because when this trade deadline happened, everybody got hurt from that trade deadline. But go back to the Yankees in 2022. They traded with 3 different teams. They got Benintendi from the Royals. They got Lou Trevino and Frankie Montas from the A's. And then they got Scott Efros from the Cubs. Right? And this is after, I think it was this was the first year that the new playoff format was introduced with the with the 3 wildcard teams. So, it's still doable. It's just, at the time, everybody loved that trade deadline, but then everybody got hurt. That's what I'm hoping that we see here, where the Yankees, they make trades with multiple teams, and they address their needs, right? Because you do need a starter. They definitely need a couple of relievers. I think relief pitching it's now gotten to the point where it's at the top of the list. Or maybe it's not in the beginning of the year, I didn't feel that way, because the Yankees' bullpen's always good. They got to figure it out. So relief pitching, I guess a starter, Or maybe you put, I would say relief pitching, third base, and then a starter. Because with the starting pitching, there are some options that should be coming back. Luis Gil and Ryan Yarbrough. Yarbrough could also be an option as well. And then you kind of got to figure out, well, how are we going to do this? I mean, are they going to send Schlittler down? Again, we got to see how he is after one start. Because I think if Schlittler continues to pitch well, I mean, obviously there were some things to take away in a negative aspect, but if he goes out there and he pitches well, it's going to be kind of hard to send him down. So that's something the Yankees will have to think about. I feel like but same thing as with the bench. That's something that'll figure itself out. Actually, speaking of the bench, look, I understand that there's a logjam, but you do have to like this, that the Yankees have multiple options to go to off the bench. Whereas in the past, they didn't really have a deep bench. Like, they have a good bench because you have a Trent Grisham, a Stanton, a Ben Rice, a Paul Goldschmidt. Like last night, Stanton and Goldschmidt were resting. You could go to them in the later innings. Stanton comes up for Peraza, hits a 2-run homer. Goldschmidt, they intentionally walked. Hey, that played a role in the Yankees winning yesterday. That forced the Mariners to intentionally walk Goldschmidt. They have options to go to. So I like that. And also, we're seeing a bit of consistency with the leadoff spot. Have the Yankees found their leadoff hitter with Jason Dominguez? I really hope so. Because so far it looks like it. That's what we need. We need consistency. We need stability. And, it's been a long time. I mean, the Yankees really have not had that leadoff hitter since Brett Gardner was the leadoff hitter. Now, LeMahieu led off a bunch, but that only lasted as long as it did. But Brett Gardner for years was that guy. And maybe it's Dominguez. But we'll see what happens. Yankees start a series with the Cubs tonight. Final series before the All-Star break. So actually we'll go into here and look at the other series. So you got the Guardians and the White Sox. They have a doubleheader today. Marlins and the Orioles, Rockies and the Reds, Mariners, Tigers. You got Luis Castillo against Tariq Skubal. That's a good pitching matchup. That's on Apple TV. Rays against the Red Sox. They continue their series. Kodai Senga makes his return tonight. So that's good for the Mets against Michael Wacha. This is actually, I think the Royals were doing this as a 10-year anniversary celebration of their World Series championship against the Mets back in 2015. Also, next week, David Wright will be getting his number retired at Citi Field. So congratulations to him. That should be a special day for Met fans and David Wright. But yeah, so Mets against the Royals. That starts tonight. Michael Wacha against Kodai Senga. Rangers, Astros. Baseball is a very strange sport. Because you had the Astros who just dismantled the Dodgers, right? Swept them out in L.A. And then they get swept by the Guardians, who are under 500 right now. Who would have thought that? But yeah, they'll be playing against the Rangers tonight, division rivalry. You got Paul Skeens going up against Joe Ryan tonight. Pirates, Twins, Nationals, Brewers. The Brewers, they've been looking good. Braves, Cardinals. It's been rough for the Braves. They lost. I think they lost the series to the A's. Yeah, they're not looking good for them. They're 40-52. The Yankees will be playing them right out of the All-Star break. But yeah, Braves will be taking on the Cardinals. You got the Diamondbacks and the Angels. Phillies, Padres, Blue Jays, Athletics, and then you got the Dodgers and the Giants. That's a big series. Dustin May against Logan Webb. So that's what will finish off the first half. Right now, best record in baseball is the Detroit Tigers, 59-35. They're going for their 60th win tonight. Dodgers have lost 6 straight. And, they got Glasnow back, and he pitched well. But, yeah, they just got swept by the Brewers. So now they're kind of going through it. Look, baseball fans are justified when they say every team goes through it. You just don't like it when it's your team. Right now it's the Dodgers. And they went through it last year too. And what happened? They won a championship. Every team goes through it. You just got to weather the storm. And if you're a good team, you're able to do it. You're able to get through it and get back to winning baseball games. Dodgers will be back to winning baseball games soon enough. But everybody, I hope you all have a very good weekend. We'll be back again next week, trying to have Ben on the show. We're thinking of doing a grand show, talking many different things, because we haven't talked about. It's been a lot of Yankee stuff lately, but we haven't talked about the NBA. Because we had the NBA draft, we had the NBA finals, we had Cooper Flag against Bronny in the summer league. Cooper Flag now a member of the Dallas Mavericks. Mavericks took him with the first pick. The Knicks named Mike Brown as their next head coach. Kevin Durant traded to the Rockets. All of that. We will talk about that. Also, I wanted to get into talking a little bit about the Steelers, because they continue to make moves. They traded Minkah Fitzpatrick, acquired Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith. So we were going to talk about that, and also just talk about the All-Star break in general, baseball, where teams are at, players that could be moved at the deadline, all of that good stuff. So that is going to happen hopefully Monday. We're aiming for Monday. And potentially we could do maybe a live show. Maybe. So that's in the works, but I'm not promising a live show. But we will definitely be back, me and Ben, together at least for Monday. So make sure to tune in for that. But everybody have a good weekend. Make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and comment on the videos. Check out all the other videos as well on the channel. And wherever you get your podcasts, you can listen to us as well. Follow us on the social media platforms. Everything is in the description below on the videos. And as always, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, signing off. Have a good one, everybody. Enjoy the weekend, and I will talk to you guys next time. Take care.